September 4th, 476 CE. The last Roman emperor in the West, Romulus Augustulus, is deposed by a Germanic chieftain named Odoacer. With this single act, the Western Roman Empire, one of history's greatest civilizations, officially comes to an end after over 1,000 years of dominance. But what if this never happened? What if Rome had found a way to survive its internal struggles and external pressures? How would our world look today if the Roman Empire had never fallen? Today, we're going to explore one of history's most fascinating what-if scenarios. We'll examine what could have saved Rome, and how a surviving Roman Empire might have shaped the modern world in ways you've never imagined. To understand what could have saved Rome, we first need to understand why it fell. By 476 CE, the Roman Empire was facing what historians call the perfect storm of problems. The empire was massive, stretching from Britain to the Persian Gulf, encompassing over 5 million square kilometers. Managing this vast territory had become nearly impossible. Political instability plagued the government, with emperors averaging just 2.5 years in power during the 3rd century crisis. Economically, Rome was hemorrhaging gold to pay for its massive military and bureaucracy, while simultaneously debasing its currency, causing devastating inflation. Meanwhile, Germanic tribes pressed against the northern borders not necessarily as conquerors but often as refugees fleeing the Huns. The military had evolved from citizen soldiers fighting for Rome to largely barbarian mercenaries fighting for pay. Christianity was replacing traditional Roman values and civic duty. The empire had effectively split into western and eastern halves that often fought each other as much as external enemies. But here's the crucial question: were these problems actually unsolvable, or could different decisions at key moments have changed everything? Let's imagine a different timeline. In our alternate history, let's say that in 395 CE, instead of dividing the empire between his sons, Emperor Theodosius the Great implements a series of revolutionary reforms that address Rome's core problems. First, administrative reform. Instead of trying to rule everything from Rome and Constantinople, our alternate Theodosius creates a federal system. Major provinces become semi-autonomous regions with local governance, but united under Roman law and military command. This reduces bureaucratic overhead and allows for more responsive local administration. Second, military reform. Rather than relying on expensive mercenaries, Rome implements a system similar to what we'd later see in feudal Europe, but with Roman characteristics. Local landowners become responsible for training and equipping regional forces, while maintaining professional legions for major campaigns. Germanic tribes aren't just hired as mercenaries, they're incorporated as foederati with Roman citizenship paths, creating loyalty instead of just temporary allegiance. Third, economic revolution. Rome undergoes what we might call an early industrial revolution. Roman engineers, already masters of concrete, aqueducts, and mechanics, begin developing water-powered machinery for textile production and metalworking. This creates new revenue sources beyond taxation and reduces dependence on slave labor, which had been stifling innovation. Finally, religious integration. Instead of Christianity completely replacing Roman traditions, our alternate timeline sees a synthesis, Christian ethics combined with Roman civic virtue, creating a more stable social foundation. With these reforms, Rome doesn't just survive the 5th century crisis, it emerges stronger. Fast forward to 800 CE. In our timeline, Charlemagne is crowned Holy Roman Emperor, but in our alternate world, there's really no need for a Holy Roman Empire because, well, the actual Roman Empire never ended. The Islamic expansion of the 7th and 8th centuries encounters not a fragmented Europe of competing kingdoms, but a unified Roman response. The battles of Tours in 732 CE might never happen, since Rome's superior organization and engineering would have created more effective defensive positions much earlier. This, honestly, changes everything about medieval development. Without the collapse of Roman infrastructure, the Mediterranean remains a unified economic zone. Trade continues to flourish, cities don't decline, and technological knowledge isn't lost in monasteries. It's preserved and expanded upon in Roman academies and workshops. The Viking Age, too, encounters a very different world. Instead of raiding fragmented kingdoms, Vikings face organized Roman coastal defenses and may become trading partners rather than raiders. This could accelerate technological exchange between Northern Europe and the Mediterranean centuries earlier than in our timeline. Most significantly, there might be no Dark Ages at all. Roman law, engineering, literature, and civic institutions continue without interruption. The Renaissance, when it comes, isn't about rediscovering classical knowledge, it's about building upon knowledge that never disappeared. Now let's jump ahead to the Age of Exploration. In our timeline, Spain and Portugal led European expansion. But what if Rome had remained unified and technologically advanced? A surviving Roman Empire, with its engineering expertise and organizational skills, might have developed superior navigation and shipbuilding technologies centuries earlier. Roman expeditions could have reached the Americas by 1200 CE instead of 1492. But here's where it gets really interesting. Roman colonial policy was fundamentally different from later European models. Romans typically incorporated conquered peoples into their system, granting citizenship and adopting useful local practices. An alternate Roman colonization of the Americas might have looked more like cultural synthesis than conquest and disease-driven population collapse. Imagine a world where the Pacific becomes a Roman lake connecting Europe, Asia, and the Americas under a single administrative and legal system. Global trade and technological exchange accelerate dramatically. The scientific revolution might have begun centuries earlier. Roman engineering tradition, combined with continuous institutional learning, could have produced systematic scientific methodology much sooner. We might have had steam engines in 1200 CE, not 1712 CE. Religious history changes completely. The Protestant Reformation was partly a reaction to medieval Catholic corruption and the desire to return to pure early Christianity. In our alternate timeline, with continuous Roman Christian synthesis, religious development follows a completely different path. What would today's world look like? We might be living in a world dominated by a Roman Republic or constitutional empire spanning multiple continents. Democracy might have evolved gradually from Roman Republican traditions, rather than emerging through violent revolutions. Technologically, we could be centuries ahead. That continuous institutional learning, combined with global resource coordination, might have given us Industrial Revolution by 1000 CE, Scientific Revolution by 1200 CE, and who knows, perhaps we'd already be a spacefaring civilization. But would this be better or worse? Roman history shows us both remarkable tolerance and brutal oppression. A world-spanning Roman Empire might have prevented many conflicts through unified law and administration, but it also might have created the ultimate authoritarian state. Languages would be completely different. Instead of English becoming the global lingua franca, we might all speak evolved forms of Latin. Cultural development would follow entirely different patterns. We'd lose the rich diversity that came from Europe's political fragmentation. No distinct French, German, or English cultural traditions as we know them. But we might have gained technological advancement, reduced conflict, and earlier global integration. Of course, this is all speculation. History doesn't offer do-overs, and complex systems like empires rarely survive through simple reforms. The Roman Empire fell for reasons that were probably too deep and interconnected to fix with any single set of changes. But exploring these alternate timelines helps us understand both what we've gained and what we've lost through the particular path history took. The fall of Rome wasn't inevitable. It was the result of specific decisions, circumstances, and perhaps a bit of historical bad luck. What do you think? Would you want to live in a world where Rome never fell? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey through alternate history, subscribe for more deep dives into the paths history could have taken. Next week, we'll explore another fascinating what if. What if the Library of Alexandria had never burned? Until then, thanks for watching, and remember, history is full of surprises.